This is Chit and Chat, the encouraging one another podcast. Interviewing musicians, comedians, sports personalities, and many, many other individuals all over the world, sharing their story of encouragement, inspiration, what they've been through, what they've gone through, as well as amazing musicians from all over the world. Kick back and relax. For some amazing people you probably have never heard of and their story. Each of us have a story of hope, of courageousness, of inspiration. This is Chit and Chat, the encouraging one another podcast. It's always about encouraging others. Hello there, and welcome back to Chit and Chat, the encouraging one another podcast. I'm so glad you're back for another fun, exciting, encouraging episode and sharing music by some incredible artists and musicians from all over the world. Today I'm sharing songs by Kirsty Krause, her song called Bird. And since it's summertime, and I know we're getting kind of lazy, right? We don't want to do much. I'm playing Lazy Days by Benji Phonic. I really love his music, and it's fun time. You crank his music up. And Sydney Irving playing her song, I Don't Want to Fight You. A very gifted, up-and-coming musicians who is definitely going places. My guest today has worn many hats in the days, and even though we have never met, we are from the same hometown. It's kind of weird. Camden, Arkansas, we have never met. I'm excited to have him on the podcast and get to hear his story. He also lived in Colorado, served in the Navy just like me, way before I joined the Navy, and was stationed overseas in a very small island, which I had been to as well. And he also plays the bagpipes and has done different events and stuff. And he played the guitar in some rock bands over the number of years. I could be here all day sharing his many attributes, but I'm excited to talk with him. Welcome to the show, Mr. Kenton Adler, here on Chit and Chat, the encouraging one another podcast. This song is Bird by Kirsty Krause. She has been on the podcast a few times, and I love sharing her music. And you can check out her music at kirstykrausemusic.com. Again, this is Bird by Kirsty Krause.
Thought I could be affected by your criticism, poisoned by your cynicism, lost in the shadows out of me, been living in a shadow of clouds, but this is my philosophy now. Hey, hey, I put my teeth in bed and forget it. You ain't even strong enough to steal my pride. Shit, don't come married, sharing with somebody else who wants to waste their time. My currency, spend it on the positive, living how I'm dropping it. I let her fly, spread her wings, only in my head and my dreams, read between the pointer and ring. Hey, hey, I put my teeth in bed and forget it. You ain't even strong enough to steal my pride. Shit, don't come married, sharing with somebody else who wants to waste their time. dropping in. I ain't cursing now. You ain't worthy now. You don't deserve my burn. I ain't cursing now. You ain't worthy now. You don't deserve my burn.
Hey,
Hi, how are you?
not bad yourself?
Very good, thanks. You hear me okay?
Yes, sir. By yourself. Mario, send him. If I can talk, it'd be awesome, huh?
You're loud and clear, no problem.
Maybe I'm just nervous talking to Mr. Kenton Adler today. Maybe I'm just amazed that you're on here today. Thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about talking with you and your listeners.
I was just reading kind of about your bio a little bit. You wore many hats, and we'll discuss some of those today.
Great. Sounds like fun. I'm wearing a hat right now.
Nice. Right on cue. Before I like to dive into fun conversations, I like to throw some icebreaker questions at my guests, kind of get the wheels turning a little bit.
Sure.
And so the first one is, who was the most influential person in your life as a youngster, and who maybe someone it is now?
Wow, that is a great question, and I have heard you ask it and have heard some interesting answers. Aside from my parents, I would say that probably the people that had the most influence on me as a real little kid were my grandmother, Mary Deaton, who lived there in Cullendale, Arkansas, just about a block off of Fairview High School, and my mother's brother, Chuck Deaton, who was my uncle. I spent so much time with him. He was 10 years older than me and just was one of the most interesting people you would ever want to meet. He unfortunately died last year, but just was always involved in building things and making things and learning things, and just was one of the most interesting people I've ever met. And I think he passed that on to me. And my grandmother was always singing and listening to music, and I think that had a real big influence on the early part of my life too. So.
Yeah, the older I get, man, I really miss my grandparents. I mean, just the things they taught me, just going fishing, hanging out, man, it's just great memories.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, my grandmother died when I was 10 years old in 1967. I guess I was 11, but she passed away just real suddenly one Sunday afternoon in September of 1967. And so, I lost out on a lot of that. And my dad's mother died while I was in high school. So I really didn't have a lot of interaction with her either. And both of my grandfathers died before I got to know them. So.
Oh, wow. Question 2, what subject do you wish was taught in school that's probably not being taught in school?
Boy, that's funny that you asked that, because we were just talking about this a little while ago. I don't think they teach respect in school anymore. Certainly not the way we got it when I was a kid. But as far as subject matter, they've changed the curriculum so much since I was in like elementary or even in high school. I really don't know what they're teaching and what they're not. But I've judged History Day on several occasions and have found out that a lot of the kids that come in here and set up dioramas and stuff for History Day really don't understand what it means to study history. Just as for instance, they don't know what it means when you ask for a primary source. They think that means the source that they use the most to get their information, and they'll tell you that their primary source was Google, and they don't understand. They don't understand that it needs to be like a firsthand account or a newspaper story from the time that an event happened, where they're getting their information from. So I think I would like to see history taught a little bit better. So.
And our good friend back in school was the Dewey Decimal System.
Well, I think about how libraries work these days, and it
Yep.
certainly was a lot different, when you had to go through there and shuffle through a card catalog. And even when they first started computerizing libraries when I was in college, it was a totally different experience than it is now when you need to go find something.
Yeah, it's true that. What piece of advice would you give your 18-year-old self? That was a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was almost 50 years ago now. I just recently turned 67, but I think the piece of
Birthday?
advice I would give my 18-year-old self is
Yep.
do not be afraid of anything. Follow your bliss. That's it. I learned that a lot later, and I wish I had known it earlier on.
And I've talked to a lot of folks on here too, a lot of musicians, and people get their dreams bullied. And when you say someone tells you can't do something, people just quit. Don't try.
No kidding.
And just keep going. We're going to fall down. We've all fallen down. It's a matter of getting back up and keep going.
And just carry on, man. There's nothing to be afraid of in this universe. There is not. It's out there waiting to help you. And Joseph Campbell is the guy that I picked up Follow Your Bliss from in about 1987. And unfortunately, he died right about the time I was really starting to learn about him. But I've read him extensively and watched a lot of his interviews and things like that. And am really interested in comparative religion and comparative mythology as a result of him. But Follow Your Bliss was his mantra. And I have picked that up and just run with it. And I 100% agree with it. I think if you do the thing that you love and don't let anything else get in your way, that the universe will just line itself up and wait for you to knock it down. I have found that over and over and over again.
True that. Number 4, if you had to sleep on a beach anywhere in the world, where are you going to take a little nap on the beach?
Hey, I don't know if you've looked into my background that much, but I spent the year of most of 1979 and a little of 1980. Most of 1979 and a little bit of 1978, living on an island out in the middle of the Indian Ocean called Diego Garcia.
Yes, I have done some research.
I'll tell you what, that is probably one of the most beautiful beaches on the planet, or it was at the time. There was nobody out there but military. There was 1,500 Navy guys, and I mean guys. Women were not allowed to serve on Diego at that time, so I was out there for a year at about 23 years old, wishing that I was not in that circumstance all the time. But the beaches were absolutely pristine. They were this white, really fine coral sand and just gorgeous, and the temperature was always nice. And I sometimes hear 40, 45 years later, whatever it is, dream about Diego Garcia and, going back there and visiting. And it's all totally different in my dream. It's nothing like what it was. And I know from, looking on the web and stuff that it really is not like it was when I was there at all. But God, the beaches and the ocean and the environment there were just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, we'll share a little about that. We have a little small connection with that. We'll discuss here shortly.
All right.
But we'll keep that one kind of hanging out there.
Sounds good.
And last one, if you're called on stage to sing a karaoke song, what karaoke sing are you gonna sing?
I've Just Seen a Face by the Beatles.
Which one's that one?
I've Just Seen a Face by the Beatles off of Rubber Soul.
Okay, I don't think I've heard that one before.
Oh, are you kidding?
Unless I don't know the name of the song and heard it and just don't know the name of the song.
I've just seen a face, I can't forget the time or place where we just met. She's just the girl for me. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I play guitar and sing and write tunes. If I couldn't sing one of my own tunes, which I don't think anybody'd recognize on karaoke, I'd have to go with something by the Beatles. And I've Just Seen a Face is one that's been with me for years and years and years.
Our conversation today, we're going to share a little bit about you and what you've been up to and who's encouraged you along the way.
Sure.
Perhaps inspired you. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little brief bio about who Kenton Adler is.
Well, it's Adler, Adler.
Excuse me.
That's okay. I listen. I've been Alder, Antler, Atler, Alder, you name it, but it's Adler. Although if you go to Germany, I'm sure it's Adler. So anyway, yeah, I'll be glad to tell you who he is if I can figure it out.
Who are you?
Who am I? Man, I am the director of development for the Scottish Heritage Program at Lyons College in Batesville, Arkansas. That's who I am. That takes up a lot of my time these days. I play the Great Highland Bagpipe, and dipping back into Joseph Campbell for a minute, I would say that probably one of the defining moments of my life was when I decided at the age of 39, I was living up in Fayetteville and working for the University of Arkansas, and I decided that if I didn't learn how to play the Great Highland Bagpipe right then, that I probably never would. And so I started doing that. And from that moment, I would say that everything in my life has got something to do with the fact that I play the bagpipe.
Wow.
That's how I met my wife. It's how I met my best friend. It's how I got this job. It's, something that I do just about every day and have for the last almost 30 years. And, I don't think people would really maybe understand the depth to which I'm involved in that particular avocation. But that's I think at least one of the defining things about me, and the fact that I love my job, which is very much involved with teaching people, younger people especially, how to play, helping people that already know how to play, maybe play a little bit better. I think my primary role here at the college is in support of the mission of the college. And, if you want to delve into that a little bit deeper, we can do that.
You were born and raised in Camden, correct?
Well, I was born in Camden, and we lived in Camden, Magnolia, Hope, Louisville, all around there in South Arkansas up until I was about first grade. And then we moved back to Camden, and I went to school there at Cleveland Avenue Elementary School. And then in fourth grade, we moved to Colorado, and I lived in the Denver area in the eastern suburb called Aurora that you may have heard of. And I lived out there until I went off in the Navy in 1976. And then after I got back, I wound up living out on the west side of Denver for the next 10 years or so. And then in 1992, packed up and moved back to Arkansas. I lived in Fayetteville for a little while, and then have been here in Batesville for the last 25 years.
Well, growing up, what was the best piece of advice or pieces of advice you received, and now you use every day in your life? You mentioned respect earlier. I'm sure growing up down south was always, for me especially, was respecting the elders, mom, dad, anybody. Period. Yes sir, no ma'am.
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, there was not much in the way of talking back. You did what you were told, and I don't know, as far as advice. I mean, I think most of the time at that age, up in your elementary and even into your junior high school years, most of the advice that you're getting is coming either from a parent or maybe from a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, probably the best advice that I got, though, I mentioned my Uncle Chuck, and he was always telling me, go to the library, get some books. And I spent so much of my youth reading, and I think that has made a huge impact on the rest of my life. And I still read all the time. I try to put in at least a half an hour every day before I go to bed reading something. So.
And you mentioned 1976. I was 6 years old when you joined the Navy.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for that.
Why the Navy?
Why the Navy?
Yes, sir.
Well, I got out of high school, and what I really wanted to do was join the Air Force. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of at the end of the Vietnam era. They had just stopped drafting people shortly before that. And my mother absolutely would not allow me to join the military. She's just like, you're not doing that. She was afraid it was going to fire back up and they were going to send me over to Vietnam. And I wasn't in any great hurry to go do something like that. But I was always interested in the military. One time I really wanted to go to the Air Force Academy and become a pilot. When I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be an astronaut, just like everybody my age did at that point. But I got out of high school and I went off to college, and I just wasn't very interested in being there, to tell you the truth. I went to the University of Northern Colorado, and basically I majored in, following girls around and drinking beer. And in about February, they asked me to leave, and in March they insisted. So, so I got a job working out at the International Airport in Denver, and I loved it. I worked for a company called Sky Chefs, and we put meals onto airplanes. So they'd cook them over at the flight kitchen, and we'd load them up into these big warming ovens and take them out onto the ramp. And I would help my partner, who was the driver. I'd guide him up to the airplane in the truck, and we'd raise up on that big hydraulic lift and load these meals in there and then come back down. And I did that for about a year and a half, and I just loved it. I worked at night. I worked from about 4 until midnight. And so I was on a night shift, and we had about 1 or 2 flights an hour. And, I was always meeting flight attendants and, we got to have steak dinner every night. We always got a first class steak dinner to sit out there on the ramp and eat. And I loved that job. And then they laid off everybody in my job classification because they lost an airline contract. So I didn't have anything to do, and it paid really well. And I was just sitting around thinking, I'm not going to take some lousy job that I don't like, that doesn't pay as much as this. And so, I was kind of looking for something, but nothing was turning up. And then my mom said, well, you can't just sit here. You have to do something. I said, okay. So I went down and I joined the Navy, but, and I honestly, I don't know why I picked the Navy. Like I said, I'd really mostly been interested in going into the Air Force. But I went down and I talked to an Army recruiter. I talked to a Navy recruiter, and it just really appealed to me. And so I signed up because I wanted to be what they called an anti-submarine warfare operator and be on a flight crew. And they didn't have any of those positions open at the time. So they put me in on this thing they called the OB Oxpec, where they guaranteed that I would either get to be an anti-submarine warfare operator or an air traffic controller or an aerographer's mate, which is a meteorologist. And then I didn't know until after boot camp what I was going to wind up getting sent to A school for. And as it turned out, they sent me to AG school. So I became a meteorologist. It seems like it's always my third choice is the one that they wind up
always.
Me, so, yeah.
Yeah, I was in boot camp in San Diego. I went to sea school, became a radioman. So, I was at USS Truxton. And where we connect a little bit was they flew up. I got my orders to meet my ship in the middle of Westpac, halfway across the world, in Diego Garcia.
Oh, awesome! So you've been there.
I have been there.
Fantastic. You know what I'm talking about, how pretty that sand is.
Yes, as my clearance was catching up to me, I had nothing to do. I played softball and swim. So I swam on the water, and the water was so blue.
Fantastic.
Memories.
Did you swim there in the lagoon?
Just out a little bit. It was kind of marked. This was probably 90. I guess maybe June of 1990. Yes, it was. And so, flew me out there, and it was a long flight from Seattle to Anchorage to Philippines, and Philippines to Diego Garcia.
There is no short way to get there. I went San Francisco to Honolulu to Guam to to Singapore. No, Philippines, then Singapore to Diego. So, yeah. But
where were you while serving in the Navy?
Say again?
Where were you stationed?
I did boot camp at Orlando in 1976. I got to pick that, and I've had a theme throughout my life. I picked Orlando because I knew that's where girls went, and I figured even if I couldn't, have anything to do with them, I could at least see them from time to time. And so I picked Orlando, and then I went from there to A school in Lakehurst, New Jersey in the winter, which kind of stunk. And then I went to my first duty station was at NAS Memphis, the Naval Air Station at Memphis, which is up in Millington, Tennessee. And I was there at the Naval Weather Service Environmental Detachment. And I was there for a year and a half. And my next position after that was for C school, which was upper air school. And that was Chanute Air Force Base in Rantoul, Illinois, which, is a funny place. We call ourselves the Cornfield Navy. And then they sent me to Diego Garcia after that. And I was the upper air supervisor out there on Diego. And I talked to my detailer. I had about 7 months left, and asked him if they'd send me back to Memphis. And he said he'd be glad to, but I had to re-up for 2 years. And at the time, I just wanted to go off and play guitar in a rock band. So I said, no, thanks. And so they sent me to the USS Enterprise, and it was in wet dock at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard up in Bremerton, Washington. So I finished up there just outside of Seattle.
I live right across from there. Probably 15 minutes from Bremerton.
Wow, it's really funny. I knew you were up in Washington, but I didn't know you were that close. So you know how beautiful it is up there too.
Yeah, I've been here since I got out of the Navy in '93. Met the wife. She goes, "You're not going back to Arkansas." So I've been there of Washington State for 40 plus years.
Well, I really seriously considered moving back up to the Pacific Northwest, and I almost stayed there when I got out. There were a lot of real interesting opportunities at that time, which was 1980. As far as the music scene that was going on up there, and I probably could have stayed and really kind of taken a shot at being a guitar player, but I wound up going back to Denver instead. And I did play guitar in a number of bands, but I worked for my dad in the printing industry out there and put myself through college while I was playing in rock bands. So stayed pretty busy.
We'll return to the Chin Chan Encourage You One-on-One podcast after these messages.
Are you craving donuts? I got a place for you to check out the most delicious donuts around. Come on down and check out my friends at Lone Star Donuts. They're a locally owned and operated business here in Kitsap County, and now they open their third location. They already had locations in Silverdale, Washington, Port Orchard, Washington, and now in Poulsbo, Washington, with over 50 kinds of donuts. I kid you not, 50 kinds of donuts. Many are filled, many are maple with bacon, real bacon, not that fake bacon. And now they have clutches. I had no idea what these were, but they're like a yeasty pastry with kielbasa in them, and they're so, so good. Check them out on Facebook, Lone Star Donuts. Their 3 locations are in Silverdale at 1087 Maury Place. The number is 360-204-5021. In Port Orchard at 2649 Mile Hill Drive. The number there is 360-443-2600. And now in Poulsbo at 21505 Marketplace, Suite 102. We all know you cannot buy happiness, but you can buy donuts. That's basically the same thing, right? Stop by and check out my friends at Lone Star Donuts. You can find them on Facebook as well. Lone Star Donuts, the best tasting donuts around.
Are you craving some authentic, fresh Mexican food? I am. I want to tell you about 2 businesses here in Silverdale, Washington. They're both locally owned and operated. They got some of the best tasting Mexican food around. The first one is Taquiza Street. They're a local food truck located at 9571 Silverdale Way in Silverdale, Washington. They got some best tasting breakfast burritos you'll ever find, including the Breakfast Tex Burrito, the Breakfast California Burrito, the Breakfast Ultimate Burrito, and my favorite, the Barbecue Pork Burrito. Delicious. They also add items like tacos, burritos, and other great tasting items. Call and place your order today. Go out and pick it up at 360-914-9152. That's at Taquiza Street. Also, at the Kitsap Mall, Taquiza. They have 5 kinds of tacos there. That's right, 5, including burritos, taquitos, taco salads, and my favorite, grilled jalapenos, yummy, and many, many more delicious items. Also, on Taco Tuesdays, tacos are 50% off. That's right, 50% off. Where can you find that deal, right? Call and place your order today at 360-698-4335 or head over to the website at taquizatacoshop.com and get some more great tasting, authentic Mexican food at Taquiza, located at the Kitsap Mall. Their number again is 360-698-4335. Let's move on to one of your many talents is bagpipes. What kind of drew you in to playing and learning and teaching bagpipes?
Well, I'll tell you, I can go almost in a direct line back to probably about 1961 or 62, somewhere in there. My mother took me to see a movie called The Buccaneer with Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner, and it was about the pirate Jean Lafitte and Andrew Jackson in the Battle of New Orleans. And I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but at the end, the British soldiers come marching through the fog out there at Chalmette, and out in front of them are bagpipe players. And I heard that sound and the hair stood up on the back of my neck. I just thought that was the coolest sound I'd ever heard. And so my whole life, I'd see pipe bands on TV in parades, or I'd be at a parade in Denver. They had a couple of pipe bands there. And my neighbor behind me played the bagpipe. And it never occurred to me at the time to climb the fence and go, hey, Mr. Kelly, can you teach me how to play that? But I'd go sit out there and listen to him play. So I just wanted to do it since I was about 5 years old. And then I got to working at the University of Arkansas in computing services. And I was one day just fooling around on my computer at work, and I found a group that was a discussion group on the old Usenet that was talking about bagpipe. And they, you could post a message. And so I just said, hey, if I wanted to learn bagpipe in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where would I go about it? And this guy wrote back and said, well, they teach bagpipes in a band there called the Ozark Highlanders, and they'd probably be able to teach you for free. And I went, great. So I found the Ozark Highlanders and went to them and started getting lessons. And I played with them in Fayetteville for about 3 years. And we kept coming over here to Batesville for the what was then the Ozark Scottish Festival, and then they changed it to the Arkansas Scottish Festival. And I just loved the town, and Lyons College was just such a pretty place. And the pipe band here was outstanding. And I thought, well, Ozark Highlanders are a bunch of great people. They were my good friends, and they were all good players. But they taught me everything that they knew. And I thought, if I want to get more, I need to go somewhere else. So I applied for the job here at Lyon, and I started out as the instructional technologist for 14 years. And I played in the pipe band on the side. And, I was doing that. And then the pipe major here at the college at the time took a job at another college to build a band there up in Illinois. And when he left, the guy that took over is a guy named Jimmy Bell, and he's still the director of the program and the pipe major of the band. And he's just one of the top pipers in the United States, and in fact, the whole continent of North America. There's probably, 5 guys total that can do what he can do. And so he took over the band and the program here as director of Scottish Heritage and director of the Arkansas Scottish Festival. And one of the first things that he did was to initiate this Scottish Arts summer school. So we started having people that would come in here and study with him, and he would bring in these great instructors from Scotland and other parts of the United States. Early on, we had guys like Angus John McClellan and Jimmy McIntosh, Roddy McDonald, and Jimmy always taught. And eventually they started working me in as an instructor. And we just had our most recent one here was just a few weeks ago. And we had Willie McCallum, who is the current Glenfiddich champion. And that's kind of like these days, that's kind of like the world solo pipe band solo pipe championship. And then we also had a guy named Jack Lee, who's the pipe sergeant, a long time for Simon Fraser University, who have multi-time winners of the World Pipe Band Championship. And so they were here teaching, and I get to teach with them, and we teach everybody from beginners up through very accomplished players. And, they're here for a week, and it's just immersive. We just play bagpipe all day. And we also, here at the college, I don't know, are you familiar with Lyons College?
I'm not.
Okay, well, we're a small private liberal arts college in Batesville. And for people who don't know where Batesville is, we're about an hour and a half northeast of Little Rock, right on the edge of the foothills of the Ozarks to the west and the Delta to the east. Beautiful little town, a lot of great outdoor opportunities here, and just a real neat place. It's been growing. And then Lyons College has been here since 1872, and it was founded by the Presbyterian Church. So back in the early part of the 80s, one of the staff members here at the college said, we really need to honor our Scottish connection, because the Presbyterian Church is the Church of Scotland. He was a guy named Ralph Graham, and with several other people on campus here, Dennis Wright and a few other folks from here in Batesville, they started having like Highland games, like the heavy athletic type of stuff. And they combined that with homecoming. And so for years they were doing that, and they had a few people that played the pipes, but then they actually started a pipe band. And I could sit here and tell you all this stuff and write a book about it, just about. But they got this program going, and it has flourished over the years. Our pipe band has been to the World Pipe Band Championships 3 times. In 2001, they actually came in second in the 3B grade, which is about halfway up, in the overall kind of thing. In pipe bands, you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 1 is the highest level. And they were playing in 3B, and that was pretty good. And to come in second in the world in anything is pretty remarkable. And then we went back over in 2006 was the last time we were there. So, but Lyons College is a very selective liberal arts college, and our job at the college is to turn out people who can think critically and creatively, and that can communicate effectively. And so, we're trying to make people who make the world a better place. We're very oriented in service, and so they come out of here with a good academic background and a little bit of spirituality, maybe. The Presbyterian Church is not as involved now as they once were, but we still have a very strong connection with them. And it's, it isn't pushed down anybody's throat, but it's there if you want it. Right. And the pipe band, our mission is to support the mission of the college. So we are ambassadors. And I can tell you without any hesitation that people know Lyons College because of the pipe band. I've literally been walking down the street in New York City wearing my Lyons College tartan kilt, and somebody walk up and go, "Hey, Lyons College." Same thing happened one night in Baton Rouge. We'd been down there at a competition, a solo piping competition. We're going for dinner, and some young lady walked up and goes, "Hey, I know that kilt. You guys are from Lyons College." And we played at the opening of the Clinton Presidential Library. We're just out there in the community. We play at Kirkin of the Tartan services all over Arkansas and Oklahoma, Louisiana, Tennessee. We just go all over the place, and we compete in pipe band competitions at Highland games all over the country, either as soloists or as a band. So we're just out there waving the Lyons College tartan, and trying to support the mission of the college.
I'm curious to know, how long did it take your average Joe to start playing bagpipes and really getting familiarization with it and getting good, not really great, but good.
Yeah.
And working your way up? Is there a time process?
Yeah, there is. People ask, "Oh, is it hard?" I hear it's a really difficult instrument. And I would say that it's not any more difficult than any other instrument that you want to play. You have to go into it knowing that it's something that you want to do. And, like you say, you don't necessarily have to rise to the highest level. Not everybody's going to be, some super piper like Willie McCallum or like Jack Lee or like some of these other guys I've mentioned. Even Jimmy Bell, even though he is probably one of the top competitors in the United States over his career, you don't have to do that to be able to enjoy it. Some guys and women, my wife is a piper, and we met through piping, but I know a lot of women pipers who are really great. You don't have to be a high-end competitor, though. If all you want to do is be able to learn how to play Amazing Grace and go out to your mama's grave and stand there and play, then that's fine. There's a place at the table for everybody. So the process, though, is that if you can dedicate probably 20 minutes a day minimum, and really apply yourself to it in a mindful way, I would say it probably take you about 3 or 4 months to get to the point where you get off of the instrument called the practice chanter, which is basically just the part where you do the fingering
Mm-hmm.
and a mouthpiece, and it's got a reed in the middle of it. And you learn all the embellishments and the notes and the scales and all that. And we like to have people learn at least 3 tunes that you can play by memory on the practice chanter before you then acquire a set of bagpipes and start, actually learning to play. And the reason that you do that is because there's so much going on when you're playing a bagpipe. You got 3 drones on your shoulder that are all producing a sound. You've got to learn how to blow steadily so that that sound remains steady and not, you just want a nice even hum back there in the back. And then you have to be able to finger the notes and remember the tunes. Just about everything that we do from memory. You don't see bagpipers going out there with their sheet music clipped onto a little stand or something on the chanter.
Right.
Yeah.
What's it like when you're teaching kids and they progress and you see their faces of how they're getting better and better and better? What's that like for you as you're teaching someone as they move up the steps of bagpiping?
Well, that's the big payoff, obviously, to see that they understand what it is that you're telling them. And honestly, some of them just don't. There are kids, and some of them are real talented. Some of them, get in there and you think, boy, this kid is really going to be a crackerjack player. And then for whatever reason, they go off, get interested in playing piano and go away, or they get interested in doing gymnastics, or they get a driver's license and, get a boyfriend or something and don't want to come back, or a girlfriend and get off doing a job or something like that. So there are some of those, but when you get one of those kids, and I've had a couple here over the last few years, especially, who really get it and, we call it the fire in your head. And so you get that fire in your head where you don't just sit there waiting for Kenton Adler to tell you what to do. You start going out and trying to learn some tunes on your own. And when a kid comes into me and goes, hey, look, I tried to learn this, and I can say, well, either, boy, that's really great, or here, you need to fix this part of it, or you need to work on this little bit of it. We have a lot of very complex embellishments, sometimes 4 and 5 notes that get played between the themal notes of the tune. These little embellishments that you do, and you have to make sure you're doing those right. So for me, when they get that, though, that whole, I really understand what it is that you're telling me, and they start to integrate that in, and you hear their playing improve, you hear their blowing steady out, and they're not cutting in and out on the chanter and doing all that kind of stuff. It's really very rewarding for me.
When I think of bagpipes, I think of a lot of parades. They do even funerals, even like in Chicago when a firefighter passes away. How powerful? Have you done funerals before?
Oh, I play funerals all the time.
How humbling is that to do a funeral with the bagpipes and just kind of that sound echoes throughout the fields or wherever you're at?
Yeah, it does. Sometimes, I play a lot of weddings too. I personally prefer weddings because it's a little happier occasion, but I take it very seriously. When I go out to play at somebody's funeral, they may only want me to play Amazing Grace, and I played that tune 1,000 times, and people say, well, don't you get tired of that? And I do not, because even though I've played it 1,000 times, this may be the only time that these people have ever heard it live, and it's there for a reason. It's their dad wanted the bagpipe at his funeral, or he was in the military and they wanted that to be part of the whole ceremony there with the flag folding and the 21 gun salute, that kind of thing. And it varies from event to event, but the thing that I always keep in mind, though, is that as a culture these days, we have very few real rites of passage anymore. Back in the earlier days of civilization, there was a rite of passage for everything. You became a hunter and you had to go through this process. You went out and did your vision quest, or, you were involved in a bar mitzvah in the Jewish culture, or whatever it is. At certain points of your life, you went through these rites of passage. And we don't do that as much anymore. I guess you could kind of say that, getting a driver's license is a rite of passage, but it doesn't have much ceremony involved. And the main things that we do these days that are really rites of passage are getting married and having funerals. So I understand the weight of that for the individuals that have asked me to come and participate in that rite of passage with them. And I take it really seriously. Some funerals, though, are very celebratory. Everybody's in an upbeat mood. They want me to play happier tunes, and I'm glad to do that if that's what they want. And other times it's very somber and everybody's in tears, and that has an effect on me to some degree. I think about the first funeral that I ever played by myself. I'd done a couple with my instructor back when I was in Fayetteville, but they asked me if I'd go down and play at a police officer's funeral in Fort Smith, and they wanted me to wear the full number one, we call it, the full military getup with the feather bonnet, and the plaid thrown over my shoulder and the long horsehair sporran and spats and all that kind of stuff. And so I did, and I got down there, and he had not been killed in the line of duty. He had died of cancer, but he was a young guy in his 40s. And so I was there all through that service for this gentleman, and his family was there, and I was fine, and I played Amazing Grace, and everything was going great until I happened to look over and see his wife sitting there in that front row crying. And she hadn't started to cry till I started to play. And I just was going, man, I hope it's because this is, touching her heart and not because I'm doing such a lousy job of it. But I think it was the former. But, that really got me right there at that particular moment, that I was having such a profound effect on the way she was dealing with her grief. And I've seen that happen so many times since then. A young person died at a place up in North Arkansas one time, and I went up there, and he was a volunteer firefighter, and I went up there and played at his service, and all they'd wanted was Amazing Grace, and so I was fine, and I played that. And after the thing was over, his dad came over and said, look, I just want to thank you so much. This meant so much to have you there and doing this, and would you please play Amazing Grace one more time? And I said, absolutely, no problem at all. And I just blew up right there on the spot and played it for him again because it meant something to him.
One of my dreams, I'm 53 now. Hopefully before I die, I want to go to Arlington and see and hear, the 2 Million Soldier, and just kind of get that awe of that experience of being there, of the many men and women who did sacrifice for our country. And so it still gets chills this day. I just want to go there with my dad and my brother sometime and just visit that very humbling ground.
Yeah, I agree. I was alive and remember the Kennedy assassination and watched that whole funeral service. And I'm talking John Kennedy. Unfortunately, we had Bobby after that, but John Kennedy. And I remember that whole process of, his very elaborate state funeral and his burial there at Arlington. And so I knew about Arlington from a very early age, and as many places as I have visited, I've been in 45 out of 50 states. I've never made it to Arlington National Cemetery, and that's someplace I'd like to go to.
As we slowly begin to wrap up here, I want to discuss about your ancient artifact from a school that's no longer around that I graduated from, Camden, Arkansas.
Yeah.
You have an artifact, don't you?
Actually, I have a number of artifacts, but if I'm thinking about the one that you're talking about, I still carry around my guitar pedals and chords and stuff in an old Camden Panthers athletic bag.
There you go. Yep. That's what I'm thinking.
I got it in
Yep.
I got it in 1987. It's a black bag with yellow handles, and it's got Camden Panthers and the Panther head on the side, silk screened on there in yellow.
I have some Camden listeners, and this is the podcast goes to a Facebook group in Camden. So many memories of that the school. I went to middle. I grew born and raised in Camden. I left there when I joined the Navy, but my mom taught there. My dad was a volunteer firefighter there for a number of years. So many memories of that small town, man.
Well, I love that town. It means a lot to me. I was just back here a few months ago. I went out to the old Fairview High School gym, which they've reconditioned and remodeled, and played there for the Ouachita County Historical Society for their anniversary of the Chittister House. Mm-hmm. And my mother and her two sisters and my Uncle Chuck all went to Fairview High School. So, I hadn't been in that gym since about 1961 or 62 until that night when I went and played for them. And it just was great. And we lived on Greening Street, in the Greening house, actually, at 512 there on Greening Street when I was a little kid. And I just love that place. And I still love Camden. I enjoy going back down there every opportunity I get.
I lived on Arkson Street, and you go through the woods about a 10-minute bike ride. You're Garden Oaks.
There you go. There you go.
I miss Pizza Hut, Ken's Pizza Hut, the Sonic. Oh my goodness, great.
Well, they didn't have any of that stuff when I was there. We used to go out to that Tasty Freeze that was out by the paper mill, out by Cullendale. Where we went to Dairy Queen. There was a Dairy Queen over there on Washington Street.
That's one thing I don't miss is Camden is a smelly paper mill.
Oh, I don't miss that either. My grandmother lived about half a mile from that paper mill. And, back in those days, the house wasn't air conditioned. And so you're out there in the summer with the window open, trying to keep cool. And the smell of that paper mill just wafting right in, man. It was unforgettable. I can still smell it in my dreams.
What has been one of your proudest achievements? And it's a few years to kind of put all in one, but in your thoughts, what were your proudest achievement you've kind of accomplished, or maybe you want to accomplish, perhaps?
Well, I'm hoping that as far as things that I want to accomplish, I'm still hoping that one of the kids that I have had something to do with teaching the bagpipe will, go on and do something really great with that. And it doesn't even have to be winning a competition, a championship of any kind. We have a young lady that's been playing with us now for about 4 years, coming up on 5. And her major ambition in life is to come to Lyons College and play in the pipe band. And she's been playing with us for the last couple of years. And she's entering her senior year of high school in the fall and is planning to be at Lyons in the fall of 2024. And I think that is something that I will really be proud of when I see her enrolled at the college and out there playing with the band. Up until this point, man, I've just done so many remarkable things, either as a piper or, playing guitar in a band, or, just had some academic success doing some stuff. I've published a couple of books. I've written a lot of poetry and have won quite a number of poetry prizes and had things published. And I'm proud of all that stuff. And I'm really proud of my wife. I waited until I was 50 to get married before I finally found just the right girl. And she is so super. She's an occupational therapist and a piper. And, she's a writer. She writes poetry and is an equestrian, just one of the most interesting people that I've ever met. And I'm really proud to say that, I was smart enough to latch on to her. One of my buddies told me I outkicked my coverage.
It's funny because I had Coach Ken Hatfield on my podcast, former coach of Arkansas Razorbacks, keeping the Arkansas theme going. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I truly believe everyone has a story, and I love having the opportunity to chat with you today. It's hard to believe this podcast has reached 20 countries. As we wrap up, any words of encouragement for somebody out there? Any inspiring thoughts you may have top of your head you want to share with the world?
Well, we could go for another hour, but if I have to refine it and take it down to just one thing, I'm going to go back to that mantra: follow your bliss. Find the thing that you love to do and do it. Don't be afraid of anything. Don't worry about what people think about you. Just go out there and do it. And the universe lines itself up and waits for you to knock it down. You're just going to find all these dreams come true if you're just doing the thing that you love.
Thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. And I hope we can stay connected, and just, you are a very talented guy, and thanks so much for the time.
Well, thank you, Jody. I really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you and to talk to your listeners, and maybe touch base with some folks back there in Camden and say hello. And I hope we get a chance to sit down and maybe have a cup of coffee or something sometime. I'd still like to get back up there to the Pacific Northwest and ramble around a little bit. Or maybe sometime when you're down here in Arkansas, we can hook up down in Camden and go to Pizza Hut.
That's good, man. Take care of yourself, brother.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Hey, you too. My good friend Benji Phonic is back with another song, and here we are, playing it here on the Chit and Chat Encouraging One podcast. It's Lazy Days.
God bless those lazy days. God bless those lazy days. God bless those lazy days. God bless those lazy days.
It's just another lazy kind of day. Fun in the sun, chasing the clouds, no need to run. Castles in the sand at the beach on the weekend. Laughing by the pool, cannonballs in the deep end. We gon' dance in the city all night. The party doesn't stop until the dawn breaks light. Drive back home as the day's begun. Sunrise kissed by the California sun. Top down, fun in the sun. Another sweet song, another hard one. Day tripping, just slipping away. This is how we do on those lazy days. God bless those lazy days.
God bless those lazy days.
God bless those lazy days.
God bless those lazy days.
This is how we do on those lazy days. Sunsets, a walk in the woods. Rolling real slow, girl, you know it's all good. Southern California in the spring, no equal. Top down drive with the Beatles and the Eagles. Cruising on Victoria Ave, reminiscing about all the good times we had. Then we head to the crib in the Riverside Hills. Lights down low, Netflix and chill. Top down, fun in the sun. Another sweet song, another hard one. Day tripping, just slipping away. This is how we do on those lazy days. God bless those lazy days.
God bless those lazy days.
God bless those lazy days. This is how we do on those lazy days. This is how we do on those lazy days. Top down in the sun, cruising the one. It's second to none. My heart is filled with lazy melodies. Come take a ride on the breeze. Top down, fun in the sun. Another sweet song, another hard one. Day tripping, just slipping away. This is how we do on those lazy days. Top down, fun in the sun. Another sweet song, another hard one. Day tripping, just slipping away. This is how we do on those lazy days. God bless those lazy days.
God bless those lazy days.
God bless those lazy days.
God bless those lazy days.
God bless those lazy days. God bless those lazy days. God bless those lazy days. This is how we do on those lazy days. God bless those lazy days.
That's one of my new favorite songs there, because you know what? Find those times through some lazy days are hard to find, but I like that song. Benji Phonic, thank you very much. Lazy Days with Benji Phonic.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
When I say barbecue, does your mouth just start to water? Barbecue. Well, I got the place for you to go check out, right? Double D's, Barbecue and Smokery. They got the best tasting ribs, dry rub ribs, and the meat just literally fell off the bone the last plate I had. Delicious. Also, they have pulled brisket, pulled pork, sides like bacon, macaroni, and cheese, coleslaw, beans, and cream corn with green chilies. Little kick. Delicious. And a dessert, banana pudding. That's right, banana pudding. Where can you find that at, right? See, Brett and Don, the owners of Double D's, are both strong military veterans. They have found a home here in the Pacific Northwest, and their roots range from Texas to North Carolina and everywhere in between. They bring their amazing flavors to their ribs and their food truck, which is a catering business as well. You can reach them at 360-960-9093. They're on Facebook, Instagram. That's right, Double D's, Barbecue and Smokery. Delicious tasting ribs and barbecue. You got it. Check them out. I'd like to welcome one of the newest sponsors to the podcast, Mr. Alex Pablo.
He specializes in assisting small to medium-sized local family restaurants establishments in enhancing their brand, identify, and cultivate a strong business image. He provides a comprehensive support through the creation and maintenance of professional business website, menu design, printing services, as well as implementing an effective online ordering system. His objective is to empower these businesses to flourish and achieve sustained success and increased online sales in their respective markets. Check out aldentedigitals.com for more information.
This is Sydney Irving. I Don't Want to Fight You. And she has got some amazing new music coming out. And I'm getting her back on the show here in the future. She is just going balls to the wall and just staying busy and sharing her amazing music. And I hope you enjoy it. Crank it up. This is I Don't Want to Fight You by Sydney Irving.
Don't wanna hear the calloused words you speak when you're alone. Showing teeth, now are we? God, I'm tired of sticks and stones. Thunder shook the afterglow. The way that hurt, you'll never know. Chapters ending. Oh, and I can feel you staring. Oh, it's wearing down my soul. This complexion's all for show. Oh, let the credits roll.
You can check out her website at sydneyirvingmusic.com. That was I Don't Want to Fight You by Sydney Irving.
Thank you so much for joining the Chit and Chat Encouraging One podcast today. My interview was with Kenton Adler, and it was a fun time. We shared a lot of laughs
And it was really fun getting to know him and hearing about his story, as well as the musicians who allowed me to share their songs for you. Hope you enjoyed all their songs. And my sponsors, who are a very critical part in getting this podcast out. And I love promoting local businesses here in Kitsap County. And if you haven't subscribed or follow, what are you waiting for? Please do so. Go to iHeartRadio or Spotify and subscribe to the podcast. Or my website at chitandchatpodcast.com. That's ChitNChat podcast.com. I'm your host, Jody Sheffield, and thank you for joining us today. Hope to see you back next week and every Wednesday as we have brand new episodes. This is Chit and Chat, the encouraging one another podcast, where it's always about encouraging others.
This is Chit and Chat, the encouraging one another podcast. It's always about encouraging others.